Hey guys, this is What If Deku Was a Monster Hunter? Part 1. Now, kinda similar What If, but I never posted it, at least I don't think I did. But, yeah. Now guys, if you've been watching my channel lately, you probably know that I haven't been posting much at all. I've been waiting weeks on end the post, and I feel like I'm just wasting time. I feel like I don't have enough time anymore. I feel like YouTube isn't really my passion anymore, but I still want to do YouTube. It's like, I don't know how I'm having a midlife crisis when I'm only 15. I don't really know, but I do know for certain I do want to do stuff on YouTube. I do want to be out there on the internet. I want to be me. So I'm also dabbling into acting. I'm going to be going to theater classes next year, or next school year when it starts up, or this summer, so I can just get that out of the way. So I'm probably going to do some, acting stuff and see if I have a feel for it. And if I do, I'll probably do acting in YouTube, and that'll probably be my future. But enough of me talking and starting this off on a sad tone. Let's dive right into this fan fiction of What If Deku Was a Monster Hunter, Part 1. That was a 3-part series. I'm going to end it off at about 3.5 part. I don't know. But let's just dive right into this fanfiction. Now we start off with the plot of the story. And the title says it all. As Deku's family would have been a long line of monster hunters, being a distant family of Van Helsing, as Deku would have been a part of a bigger role, and his DNA being the key to a bigger puzzle in the world. But we won't get into that until like part 2, part 3. Because part 2 and part 3 are going to be like hours long. This is just an introduction episode. But we talk about pretty much a little recap of Deku's family. And each of his grandparents and his grandparents before them, and their parents before them, and their parents before them, and also their ancestors and his cousins and all of his family have all slayed a monster at the age of 16. A monster so deadly, so gruesome, a monster that would be the king of all, giving them that edge of being, a world-renowned monster hunter. There are other monster hunter families in the quirk world now in modern time, but Deku's family is the most profound and most strongest, as their DNA and their quirks were integrated into their monster hunting skills. And even now, hunting monsters are even harder now since quirks, eyes. But supernatural phenomenons like holy water, crosses, and other things can lure out real monsters. The majority of half of all monsters in this world are true evil. And we're going to be focusing more on the more deadlier, more gruesome, and more, scarier monsters. And werewolves and vampires are going to be part of the story a little bit, but some half-breeds, like half werewolf, half vampire, are going to be more or less compadres with Deku. Now, Deku, when he's about 15, he was very much all the way up until his birth, all the way up to now. His birth was a miracle. Inko thought she could never have kids ever again after her first couple kids, as Deku would have both siblings in this universe, as Deku's siblings would have been, as he would have had a brother named Ronin and a sister named Inko. Yeah, Inko Jr. They just did a junior. The sister would have been the eldest though. And we're not really going to be focusing more on the sister too much. When I say Inko, the sister, that means I'm talking about the sister. When I say Inko, I'll talk about Deku's mom. But we talk about later on in the story, do a little recap of Deku's father, using him kind of like Endeavor type stuff, as Deku's father would have the first couple years of his life being kind of hard on him, trying to keep him alive, because in this family business, he needs to be on his feet, he needs to be tough, he needs to be hard, he can't be emotional. And some monsters will prey on your emotional side, will try to get under your skin, will try to persuade you, make themselves human, so you feel guilty and you won't want to kill them, and they will take that chance to kill you instead. As multiple monsters over the years have gotten the Inko family that way, the Van Helsing family that way. Now, pretty much Ronan would have been more of the darker side of the family, basically being the Dobby of the family, as his complexion, or pretty much his look, how he looks, the narrated, simply, is just an older version of Deku with black hair and red eyes, as his quirk would have been night vision, as he could look in every spectrum of sight, thermal, night vision, literally anything. And he also had a type of x-ray vision as well, and a super sight, so he can see like binoculars with his own eyes. So his eyes were more or less his quirk. They're just super eyes. That's his quirk. Now, pretty much Deku's father, he would still had a fire-based quirk, but he could manipulate his fire, but he had to have an outside source of fire, kind of like Pyro's powers from X-Men. So he had to have a lighter on him. Even a small source of fire, even a flash of flames would be enough for him to conjure it up and control it, and to envelop it into his mouth and spit it out, or basically spit it out and control it after it leaves his mouth. So he can basically bend it. He can do fire bending, but he can only shoot flames out of his mouth, and he can bend it with his hands and throw it like a softball or something like that. His quirk is kind of complex now and cooler. And Inko, the sister's quirk, her quirk is more or less, I guess, simple. Her quirk is just super agility. She can literally move as fast and as more smoother than even Spider-Man or Daredevil combined in this universe. So she can literally dodge, block, and literally do whatever. She can keep up with Daredevil or Spider-Man if they were in this universe, and keep up with them in a fight. Not in skill, but more or less speed and reaction time. Now, for her skill-wise, all the Van Helsing and Inko family are incredibly skilled in multiple martial arts, weapons, and also, archery and marksmanship. Like, they're all the way, trained to the max, like Batman levels of trained, even being told how to do precaution plans and backup plans and other things like that, and to think smart when you go into a conversation, or just even though just going into a battle or to hunt, as some monsters can hunt you instead of you hunting them. Some monsters are even naturally supposed to be better than you, but you're supposed to be better than them mentally. You're human. They're not. As pretty much very simple, the Inko family pride themselves for being human. Now, Deku's father would have told Deku that he needed to be as strong like his brother and his sister. As his brother and sister, on their 16th birthdays, they would have slayed mammoth of creatures. Inko, the sister, slaying a dragon that fed on children in the north side of Japan, in this universe, and basically, Ronin taking down a huge chupacabra in Mexico, as he would have wanted to take down a chupacabra for his 16th birthday to prove himself to the family, as you can pick which monster you want to attack or go and hunt after. Now, Deku was given this task when he turned 16, and over his years, Deku's childhood would be similar to similar to Todoroki, since he would be the miracle child, since his quirk would have been more or less random. Now, majority of the Inko family did not care about quirks, because quirks didn't really make a hunter. It was their mind, their intellect, their skill, and how they used their powers, or they used their skill. But Deku didn't have a quirk. I won't give Deku a quirk because I want to make him more human, so he would never have a quirk in this storyline. Maybe visions, or maybe an item that would give him a power of sorts, kind of like Excalibur or something. But he would never have a quirk himself or power himself, to make him more human and to make the story more dire, and to give the situations more, speed to them. As Deku would have started to basically get a little anxious at his 16th birthday, as he would have, he wanted to go after a Wendigo. As Deku's family was surprised that Deku would want to go after a Wendigo, but he was a miracle child, and he was trained to the max, faster and stronger in terms of training and simulations with his sister and brother, but not as fast, or not somewhere as fast, maybe strong. But Deku's not on Ronin level, or Inko, the sister's level, as he was more or less a rookie, but yet again, he was a Van Helsing, Inko as well. So he had to train. And eventually, he was at the same fighting level as Tim Drake, Jason Todd, Robin. And the pit is simple, like, if you know how they fight, he's at that type of fighting level. And his skills in tracking is almost near Craven Hunter level. But, like, watered down astronomically. I mean, like, watered down expeditiously. But, basically, we see Deku go, well, into a forest area in, somewhere else in the south, as he was told by his father to stay close. And the Chupacabras are incredibly dangerous, one of the most dangerous, as they will hunt you. They're incredible god tier hunters in the night. In the day, it will come after you, but you need to be smarter than it. You need to be fast. You need to think for yourself. You cannot let it grab you. You cannot let it catch you, or else you're dead. As he tells his son this, and Deku's even more scared now, but he uses his courage inside of him, knowing that he has to prove himself to his family. As Deku's dropped off there by a helicopter into the forest, where they know for sure it's a Chupacabra there, a Wendigo there, as Deku, sets up camp there that night. As Deku hears a noise in the forest, as Deku gets up, grabbing one of his knives and putting it in his hands and looking around. As Deku would have looked around closer and closer, as eventually out of nowhere, a Chupacabra would have ran toward him, but it would have stopped by an invisible wall. As Deku would have used more of the spiritual weapons to his advantage, using sickle signs, or basically holy signs, to keep it out, making a circle around the campsite. As it would have looked at him dead, menacingly dead into Deku's soul, as it would have stared him down, as it would have given it a gruesome smile. As Deku would be kind of fearful, afraid. The first real time in his life. Not anxious, not sad, not ashamed. True fear. But not enough to really make him lose his composure. As Deku would have backed up, grabbing one of his weapons, as he would have seen the Wendigo run off into the forest. As he would have grabbed one of his weapons, as he would have looked into the book, and it's more or less a dictionary his family has that has been copied and pasted and redone over and over, but the main book is somewhere else in mountains and caves that only the oldest members of the Van Helsing family know. But the book has some information on certain monsters and demons and their classes and how you should approach them. And Wendigos are on the top, S tier. S means they will straight up rip your head off. They will kill you without a second thought. They don't have any humanity. They can be not reasoned with. They will kill you if they see you. They will kill you if they see you. Not a single thought would cross their mind before they run over to you and straight up body you expeditiously. But basically, see that Deku closes the book as he sees that Wendigos are incredibly fast. Faster than even the strongest and fastest of quirk users, and even faster than any mammal on Earth, or anything on Earth that's alive, at least, or that's an animal. But we see that Deku would come out of the circle as he would have seen the Wendigo go into the night, as he would have had multiple weapons on him, as he would have had kind of like a vampire slayer type fit on, as he would have ran off, as eventually Deku would have catched up to a cave area, as he would have followed tracks, as he would have stopped, noticing that the tracks were too clear, they were too easy to spot, as he would have opened his eyes to the situation, as he knew the Chupacabra led him there. It was smarter than him for this situation. It knew it would follow the tracks, so it purposely led him somewhere. As I would have looked behind him, as he would have seen the 7 foot actually, tall figure looking over him, towering over him, grabbing him by the head and chucking him into a nearby wall. As Deku would have gone up, as the creature would have sprinted towards him, as Deku would have grabbed a machete, cutting it into his stomach, as a Wendigo would have looked at him, smiling, grabbing him by the shoulder and chucking him into a nearby tree, breaking one of Deku's arms. as Deku would have fell onto the ground, as he would have broken one of his legs as well on the impact of him falling down. As Deku would have limped off, as a chupacabra, Wendigo would have started to play with him, as it would have started to screech and growl voices and mimic voices that he heard. When Deku was dropped off, his father's voice saying, "You can do this, son," saying that thing will kill you, and it would start to crawl towards Deku slow, trying to intimidate more fear into him. As Deku would have looked at him, keeping a calm composure, as he would have learned one weakness all Wendigos have: weapons, knives, machetes, guns. They don't work. They can only slow it down, or just make it mad. As Chupacabra, Wendigo, sorry, I'm messing the name up so much. Wendigo would have started to walk towards Deku, growling the floor, ripping away the grass and dirt on the ground, and eventually would have been right on top of Deku, about to bite his head clean off and opening its mouth. As Deku would eventually grab a flare gun and pop that mug right into his throat, as he would have kicked the Wendigo off, as he would have started to limp away as fast as possible, as he would eventually kick his leg back into place, as his leg would have been broken, but it wouldn't really be broken, it would be dislocated. As he would have popped his leg back in place, him, thanking goodness that he actually was able to pop it back in place correctly, as his arm was shattered. It wasn't dislocated, it was shattered. As he was started to limp still, since it was still sore from getting dislocated his leg, as he would start to limp off as fast as possible back to the campsite, as eventually he would have been attacked by another Wendigo, as he would have looked around, as he would have been a pack of them. As Deku would have looked around saying this isn't normal, it's only one of them. They don't travel in packs. They don't do this. As Deku knew that he was royally screwed. He was done. Nothing can help him in this situation. Nothing can help him in this situation. 15, 16 Wendigos. Creatures that are faster than any mammal or any four-legged creature on the planet, and cannot be injured by guns, stabbing, or even being decapitated sometimes. Decapitation works sometimes, but when you suture the wound or the stump of the head, like with a heated blade or something, then that might work. The only way you can really kill them permanently, the easiest way, fire. And Deku's all out of flare guns, and all of his, fire stuff is back at the camp. And he's about 6 to 7 feet away from the camp site circle, so he's basically being pinned down by one Wendigo as multiple come around about to feed on his flesh. As Deku's met with a huge, roar in the distance, as he looks around, as he sees a big behemoth of, Deku knows what monsters look like, a werewolf, as he would have ran towards the Wendigos, ripping their heads off, slashing them in the chest, and throwing them into trees. And the only way you can kill a Wendigo without being supernatural is fire. But if you're supernatural like werewolf and Wendigo, werewolf scratches or their DNA mixed with Wendigo blood, it's like an animal fighting another animal, like a wolf fighting another wolf. You can kill each other. Basically, it's simple. Only other supernaturals can kill other supernaturals, unless you're a vampire or some other, being. But Wendigos and werewolves, monstrous creatures that were once human or are shapeshifters like skinwalkers, could hurt Wendigos by their bare hands. They don't need any weapons. They just have to be strong or faster than them, man. Faster isn't really an option, so they just have to be strong. So this big behemoth, the biggest werewolf Deku ever seen, started to rip all these Wendigos into pieces. Eventually, them all being dead, as one would have whimpered away, as it would have been missing an arm, as the werewolf would have ripped it off. The werewolf would have looked at Deku as he would have started to walk towards him on his hind legs, looking dead in his soul. As the silhouette of this werewolf is kind of like, I guess, The Order, if you've seen that show on Netflix, Werewolf. So he would have looked dead into him, as Deku would have stopped in his tracks, as he would have looked dead into its werewolf eyes, dead into the eyes of the animal, or the werewolf, as it would have looked at him close, as it would have smirked, as it would have ran off, as Deku would have been very much confused, him on the floor in pain, and very much scared, and just laying there, eventually passing out for the night on the forest floor, as his father would have woken him up hours later. As Deku would have been told that he succeeded, as Deku had a bunch of blood on him and scratches and weapons in his hands and on him, so his father assumed that he killed all these Wendigos. As Deku's father would have said, and didn't know it was multiple, but you've done more than I have done in your time. But, well, what happened is Deku would have been escorted back to the, family mansion back in Japan, as he would be pretty much praised by his family, his grandparents, and all of his cousins, for taking down multiple Wendigos. No one in our family has really done that, except for the first Van Helsing and others. As in this universe, the Inko family are just, neutral, monster hunters. Van Helsing is more or less a monster hunter, but he goes more after, werewolves and vampires. But in this story, the Van Helsing family merged with the Inko family, the Inko family being the second best hunter family other than the Van Helsings, merging their family into the both, pretty much families. As we would end off there, guys. So I hope you guys enjoy the video. Now, part 3 will be a lot longer, and we'll have a lot more of a character development type thing going on. Basically, us fleshing out more characters into the story, including the whole, layout of My Hero Academia and also the UA situation and everything about that. So I hope you guys enjoy the video. Hope you guys like and subscribe. And as always, guys, have a blessed day. Deuces.